There's no place to escape to.
This is the last podcast.
On the left. That's when the cannibalism started.
What was that?
Hey, welcome everybody to the last podcast on the left with Henry Zabrowski, Marcus Parks. I'm Ben Kissel. We have a very special episode today, Henry.
This is going to be a special learning episode. You're going to learn, for fuck's sake, put the booze down, stop smoking weed for a goddamn second.
Henry, that's our audience. That's what they do.
Just listen. You're going to want to listen and learn from this man. All right?
They've got it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we want to welcome Jeremy Vaney to the studio. Jeremy, thank you so much for being here, man.
Can they smell this audio?
No.
All right,
we
ladies
would
and gentlemen,
lose this. We would lose so many listeners if they could smell what this room smelled like.
Well, we might have lost them before, but we would certainly have lost them now. Ladies and gentlemen, we're starting a little bit later than usual. Jeremy was kind enough to wait. What do you got here about 45 minutes ago, right, Henry?
Yeah, absolutely.
Just before the podcast starts, Henry says, "Oh, my pork burritos are here. My pork little tacos are here."
This is the thing.
And literally, you guys know, we record in a small scrotum sack
They don't know.
of a room. They know, because we talk about it on every episode that I am a member of. And Henry has brought it in, and now it officially smells like the taint of a barback who has been working for 18 hours, who just got home, and realizes, holy Lord, this is why everyone looked at me terrible on the subway.
This is the thing. If you want to do good radio, right, what it takes is
He
focus.
literally eats it more disgusting than it sounds.
No, I'm just saying it just takes focus.
We have a guest, Henry!
I didn't take that last bite. I put it in my mouth and I took it out.
I would hardly call what I'm going to contribute to the conversation guest work.
Oh, that's bullshit.
So, Jeremy Vaney, today we're going to be discussing the wonderful world of alien abductions, the whole sphere of the outer universe, and it's a fascinating subject.
It's really, and we'll talk about it a lot on the show too. So there's just so much bullshit out there about what alien abduction experiences are like. People kind of twist the information for their various needs in terms of like entertainment or needing some sort of validation.
And speaking of twisted entertainment, Jeremy has two books. One, I Know Why the Aliens Don't Land, probably because they smell this studio. Is that going to be another edition?
A new appendix to the
Okay, good. Another book called Urgency.
Yes.
And a fantastic DVD called No One's Watching, an alien abductees story.
And you run a podcast, and it's called Paratopia. Right?
Swallow that bird.
That's so good. Have you ever been in such an unprofessional situation? What smells worse?
Marlon Brando, when he was an actor, when he was alive, he'd eat ice cream instead of perform. You know what I'm saying?
He was rich.
And he was a genius.
He was fat.
You know?
What smells worse, this room or the alien spacecraft you were sucked up into?
Right now, the room.
Yeah, good.
So good. I'm happy that you feel not quite at home.
The room, yeah, because it's sticking to the sweat.
So I guess that we should just begin at the situation of alien contact.
Yeah, when did it happen?
Or what would you like to start with, Jeremy? What's the thing you would like to discuss?
No,
first?
we'll start with that. I mean, when was the first? I don't know. The first time that I sort of recognized this in my life was in 8th grade, from Massachusetts originally. Going to Vermont. Yes, note that. Please note that.
8th grade. Interesting. I was also abducted by my hand.
Your penis was never the same.
It was sad. So you're in 8th grade in Massachusetts.
Yeah, put back on the serious voice. Going to Vermont, and somewhere along the Vermont-New Hampshire border, in the middle of the night, in the middle of nowhere, the stereotypical nonsense. It's me, my mother, and my sister going to visit our grandparents, and my mother sees it first. Off to the left, between some mountains, is like the worst toy-looking spacecraft you could ever imagine. Like, if I took a picture of it, you'd be like, no,
Like
sorry.
like cartoon-looking spacecraft?
Like you looked left and you're like, oh, I didn't know there was an Ed Wood film being made.
Well,
Something
I mean,
like that.
yeah, no, because I was in 8th grade, I wasn't that smart, so
Right.
I actually thought, oh, is that the Sitco sign, like from Boston? You know, like, that was the only thing I had to compare it to. But it was fluorescent or self-luminescent green. It had porthole windows running down the center. The top half is spinning one way, the bottom half is spinning the other, and it's got red and blue blinking lights, and it's just like tilted on its axis doing that, just in the air, just spinning like that.
Just showboating, like breakdancing.
Yes!
If a battleship could breakdance,
Like,
it's just
look
doing
at me, look at me, you know? It might as well be blinking at you. And so, you know, my mom said later she didn't want to, she knows what happens when you stop, so she decided to keep going.
My mother would have stopped and just enjoyed it.
Yeah, she would have
I'm
threw
just
the
going to
Bible
stop
at
here.
it.
Mom, that is not an alien. That is obviously a mobile sign.
You
just
know
stop.
that Jesus was going to come back in his own plane.
But you know.
So we get to the grandparents' house, and we think they're going to make fun of us, old conservative folk. And it's the opposite. They've got Time, Life, Mysteries of the Unexplained on the coffee table, and our uncle has seen a UFO, and now he's looking into it, and blah, blah. So it was like, saw this thing, and then had this other synchronistic situation, and to my little pea-brain 8th grade mind, that felt like boom, I was like taken out of my life. You know, it was like now there are puppet masters or something. It was just weird. It was just a weird feeling.
I hear that's one thing in reading about it. I hear that people have like sort of a lifelong involvement in it. Like people will have that sort of synchronicity happen their whole lives. Well, they'll see a UFO and then get abducted by one, like they were chosen from like a long time ago. Right? Does that feel like that?
Very similar, of course, with the ghost hauntings and things of that nature, and demon hauntings as well.
Yeah, no, I've come to a different understanding. I mean, the good thing about like coming to terms with this stuff, as I did, I guess, in high school and college, is I got all this
you don't
crap
have
out of my
enough stuff
system.
going on in high school.
Yeah,
you know, with aliens.
No, of course.
I want to touch Amy's tits, but I got aliens coming into my room at night.
It's very true. Thankfully, that probably wasn't going to go that way anyway. So
Yeah, well, at least you got some action. So that's all that matters.
But no, so the point is, all that stuff about sort of, Area 51 or I feel special, I feel chosen, disclosure, these sorts of like myths that surround this thing and these sort of belief systems. I kind of got that out of my system early, and now I don't even think it's aliens. Like, I don't even know what it is, but
You
it's
think
all
a bad uncle?
interconnected. No. But I think all the paranormal stuff is interconnected and
So
some
it's all
weird
like in
way.
our own sort of like mental processing. It's the way our brains work, where it's like almost like a grand hallucination.
No. It's like, well, for instance, I have a podcast called Paratopia, right? And so we just interviewed this woman who saw a puckwudgie. Anyone know what a puckwudgie is?
No.
It's this mythical creature of Indian lore, basically like a little sort of troll.
I've seen that.
Marcus has seen a troll.
Yeah, well, goblin.
I'm sorry, it was a goblin.
So it's her and her friends, and I
saw that goblin.
They're driving along. They have the intent of, like at Halloween or something, going up on the hill and finding the hermit. There's like the legend of some hermit, in town or whatever. They drive past where the hermit is supposed to be. The car stalls. This puckwudgie, this little hairy troll person, comes out of a cornfield, looks at them directly,
Hello.
and then scurries off, and then the car starts up again, and they keep going. So
What
here,
did he do? He's like come out. He's like jerking off.
he came out, he stared at them. Yeah, he was like, she said, he just seemed like he, go away, kind of look on his face, and that's it. But here you have like the car stalling and starting up again, which is typical of a UFO sighting.
Yeah.
And you've got the power of intention, which is we really want to see. Of course, they wanted to see this hermit, which they didn't see, but now here's
We're
this
going to see
puckwudgie.
something else. Yeah.
So you've definitely, and this puckwudgie could have come out at any point. He didn't need to come out and make a showboat, just like that UFO in the sky. He didn't need to showboat and say, look at me. So
It's just his time to shine.
yeah, to get back to your original question, like the why me thing, sort of the thing that more my partner Jeff Ritzman says, and I agree with, is that maybe this thing casts a fishing line at a young age, and whoever tugs on it, gets roped in. So
Yeah.
it's not. So
It's kinda like
pretty much
hypnosis.
everyone has had a paranormal experience. Is whether or not they interpret it that way, or they ignore it, or whatever.
Absolutely, I totally agree. I mean, was there a specific moment in high school or in 8th grade that you can remember that really like tugged on you? I don't think that I had a paranormal. I mean, I don't know. I had
Well, yeah. Several million, I think. I think if you could count the number of times I masturbated, then you get a prize.
Well,
the
prize is to never have to think of you masturbating again. So is there a specific moment though where you're like, I think this is something supernatural and an alien, or what was your first thoughts when you realized what you were seeing and experiencing?
Yeah, well, I would say that 8th grade thing was definitely the anchor, because then
did you ever go to a denial phase, or was it just confusion, or were you just like, that's an alien, I know an alien when I see one, and that's it?
When I first saw it, I wasn't like, oh, that's an alien. When I first saw it, I was like, what is that? Is that like I said, is that the sicko sign? Is that some sort of billboard? Like, what is that? It slowly dawned on me, and I was like, oh my God.
And then, did it dawn on you after another experience where you're okay.
Did you had a physical experience too, right? Where you actually got abducted, taken? Yeah.
Bum.
When did that happen?
Yeah. I had a bunch of sort of experiences that you could interpret a number of ways, right? And until October 2001, and then that's when I actually saw them, and it was like, okay, this is it.
So I want to talk about those early ones before the abduction, because I think that's fascinating to see, maybe it's like when you go fishing for a carp. It's like when you first get it on the line, you got to be kind of gentle and let it go a little bit, pretend like, oh, no, you're going to be fine. I'm not going to eat you later.
Yeah, I'll never get you, yeah.
You'll see your kids again and just go hide underneath the rock. But then, of course, and then it gets comfortable, and then you tug it up, and you got a dinner for Henry for about a minute. Like, Henry just eats the fish as soon as you get it onto the boat.
Like a cartoon cat, where I just suck on it, and all I do is pull out the skeleton.
Exactly, he's a real Heathcliff cat. So, what were some of the steps leading up to the abduction that really sort of struck you and made sense in hindsight, maybe?
Well, I don't know that there were steps leading up to the abduction. I think that there were a bunch of abduction type scenarios, and then even looking like after sort of piecing this together and making a pattern out of it and going, okay, what is this? Then I'd ask, relatives, anything in your lives? So arguably, my first experience was actually when I was 3 years old. It's just I don't remember it. My dad remembers it, and I'll tell you that story after these messages. No, nothing?
And now for big pork tacos, we've got Henry Zabrowski.
For about $4. You don't know free is a fun thing to be a part of.
Pork tacos on sale at Piggly Wiggly. Come by on Saturday. It's all you can eat. Weenies. All right. So continue on. I'm sorry, Jeremy. We've got to plug the sponsors.
No, that's cool. That's totally
So
cool.
You were 3 years old.
3 years old. A ripe young 3. And my dad remembers waking up in the middle of the night just feeling as though there was somebody in the house. And then he hears me yelling from my bedroom. He goes running in. And he said it was like I was sort of half asleep, but like either sitting up or standing up and pointing at a corner of the ceiling and yelling, "Daddy, make it go away, make it go away."
Oh, that's terrifying.
And then he said he felt somebody move behind him, and he turned around, there was nothing there, and then he felt like whatever it was, the prowler in the house, whatever, had gone, and that was it. And as soon as he felt that, I lay back down to sleep, and he just stayed with me to make sure I was okay.
Yeah, terrified. Wow. Crouched up on a chair like a cat with his hair sticking up in the back of his neck.
Well, that's fascinating.
Oh, this is my old man, you prig. I don't know. I'm just trying to paint a picture.
Well, that's something you gotta think about. Is that your dad was probably how old was he at this point? How old? In his early 20s, mid 20s?
Yeah. I mean 23, 24. Yeah.
Yeah. Can you imagine? Still, that would. I'm 28. That would still terrify me now.
Terrify me forever.
23 years old. If I just saw that, I would have a doobie in my mouth, and I'd be like,
right. Oh! I see it too, son. I see it too.
Don't worry, kid. Just you buy the ticket, you take the ride, son.
I gotta go to bed, dude. I got some chicks out there, dude. You're ruining it for me, man.
That's not what my 23-year-old existence was like at all.
It wasn't. So that was the first experience. You were 3 years old, and so and then the next one wasn't until you saw the alien spacecraft while you were in 8th grade.
Yeah, I don't think so.
So it gave you some time off.
It gave me some time off, or I just don't remember.
Maybe you were just so unlikable. The aliens were just we just do not like this
baby
kid.
needs more stuff.
Yeah,
he was a cute baby. I thought, what was the name of the child who got stolen?
The Lindbergh baby?
Yeah,
Lindbergh
he got
baby.
Lindbergh-like appeal, and then you grew up, and they were like, we're going to give him some time. Mm-hmm. So you had 8th grade, and then was it in freshman, sophomore year of high school where you started to feel other contact?
I think it was junior year. It was either sophomore or junior year. I was 15 years old. That much I remember.
Oh, junior year, 15. I was a freshman when I was 15. A little slower than you. Not good. Maybe I was, too dumb to be abducted.
I think, you'd look like bait.
That's not right. So you were 15, a brilliant junior, getting all the poontang a boy could ever want.
Keep going.
You were handsome, strapping. The
Set the scene.
teachers were like, "Man, you're so smart, but you're also not a nerd." So it's like weird that you can.
I like you. Everybody likes you. It's good.
And then you're also brilliant, and your future is so bright. And then, I mean, if it's amazing that we here on Earth get to know you, if there's anything out there, you would think they would want to know you too. You know. Something like that.
That was basically all of high school, Frank.
That was it.
Yeah.
Good.
So one fine night, at the ripe young age of 15, something walked into my bedroom.
I love it.
Cue comedians.
Hey, buddy! Welcome to Morning Zoo! With the dog news!
So anyway, it's going to rain. So something walks into your room. You're 15 years old. It's not your mother. It's not your father.
At this point, my parents are divorced, so it's definitely not my father.
Yeah.
My mother is the only one there. My sister is off in college.
So that's what we called you for. This isn't actually about aliens. This is about divorcee. So we're just going to focus on
this is how I cope, people.
Okay. So
for some reason, I started waking up at around 3:30. Well, on the dot, 3:30 in the morning, pretty much every morning. For no known reason. And then one fine 3:30 in the morning, I'm woken up by my door opening, and it makes this thump sound, so it's very specific, and that sort of jolts me awake. And a shadow person carrying some sort of long, pointy thing that I thought in my 15-year-old head sword walked in and was babbling at me. I could see its head bobbing around, and I could hear it. And I just sat up in bed and just said, "Ma, what are you doing? Go back to sleep." And immediately thought, "This isn't your mother. You know what this is." And I was just, for whatever this means,
Just got the chills, which feels great in this hot ass room. By the way, keep on telling me scary things so I can cool off.
Yeah.
So I was completely horrified, and just fight or flight instinct kicked in, and I decided to fly. I pulled the covers over my head. That's all I remember of that. And interestingly, it never even dawned on me in all these years to think, why is it that the abductees, they always we're always like, okay, this terrifying thing happened, and then the next morning, it's like, how do you go to sleep after that? How
is your body capable of going to sleep after seeing that? Do you remember what it looked like?
No, I don't remember what it looked like.
It's just it's like a short shape, but
it was too dark in the room.
Yeah, I'm interested in the babbling. Like, what did it sound like?
I don't know. It was just
Henry, give it a guess.
Was it like that?
It was a lot like that.
Weird.
Oh, it wasn't. Maybe too much like that.
It's not me.
Interesting.
It wasn't.
So next morning, I asked my mom, "Did you come into my room?" And of course, the answer is no.
So did you?
No, the aliens I let in the house came in your room.
That's right.
So with this so-called sword object, did he do anything to you with that, or that was just more? You just left after you put the sheets over your head?
I don't know. That's all. That's it. That little unsatisfying tidbit of memory is all I have.
That's fat. Perhaps it was a wonderfully romantic evening, and as I have with most of the ladies that I am kind with, I always erase their memories.
I wonder too. I know this is. I don't know if in sort of the way you were describing paranormal sort of phenomena. I know that I've had psychedelic experiences, which is where I have been, it feels like I was visited, and this is sort of I'm talking about tripping balls
on mushrooms.
On mushrooms, right? Thank you. guess this was a while ago. I was in college. I don't have them anymore, police. But I remember being approached by what seemed to be some sort of other sort of like personality, like not like of my own brain that was technically alien to me, and sort of like led me through a sort of like speech upon like the nature of reality, which I think is kind of a common thing that people when something like that happens, like especially in like sort of hallucinogenic experience, where it's like that's a common trope where you have like a guide. Do you think that something that sounds like that, where it's like, are they getting you acclimated, whatever it is, or it's like your own brain gets you acclimated to like
I don't
meeting?
know. I mean, the only time I've ever I heard that babble one more time in high school.
Yeah.
And then not again after that. And then I would hear this female speaking English. So
yeah. How many experiences did you have in total? I mean, just in looking back, I know that it's like amorphous, so it's like.
Let's see.
How many in total before the actual abduction?
Before what? Before that?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's hard to say because the weird thing to me is between 8th grade and then I started having these sort of, it was the first time I can remember having first-person dreams, and they were like first-person bits of flashback.
Yeah.
So I don't know if to include those. I mean, if I don't include those, then I would say none until that. And then there were maybe 3 more incidents in high school.
When did the actual abduction take place? Like,
what do you mean? I don't understand.
When did the actual? Because you said that there was like a culminating event, or was that the babbling?
Well, no.
Was the culminating?
I mean, I had a bunch of, like I said, just odd things, UFO sightings and things like this. I guess what I'm saying is, I could always say to myself, well, maybe I'm putting these things together because I definitely saw that thing in 8th grade. Like, there's no getting around shiny.
Yeah, you saw
whatever.
The damn thing.
That thing was there, and so am I tricking myself? Am I delusional, essentially?
Well, no, I know what you're saying, too. In 8th grade, I was very fat, and I felt like an angel, actually, came to me at night. I'm dead serious, and it was really, really powerful, and then that summer, I ended up losing 100 pounds. And I always kept that with me. And they always, I'm just saying, it was like, I was like, I want to lose weight, and then I felt like this really big presence being like, you're going to be fine, you can lose weight, you can do all this stuff. And it was a really nice, calming feeling that I never had before, because my family life was terrible. And I feel like they always correlate something with like puberty and those sorts of experiences. Do you think that had anything to do with it? As far as just like the overall...
Well, in a way, I mean...
when you need the aliens most, in other words, I feel like that's when they reach out to you. When you're in 8th grade and you're miserable, and you're like, nobody likes me.
Yeah, your body is furiously changing.
Here comes the learning part.
Yes.
Of the program. A man named George Hansen, who has written about a trickster theory, which we have put to the test, and it turns out just is always true, which is that paranormal events, UFO events, all types of Bigfoot, all of these things tend to happen, A, to marginal people, which I fit the bill, and B, in times of anti-structure. So whatever your normal...
Explain anti-structure.
Whatever your normal routine is, if you're moving, if you're getting divorced, if you're going through puberty, whatever it is, that would be anti-structural, be anti your normal sense of flow. So when you find yourself out of your normal sense of flow, it's as if that jostles something, and the greater environment you normally don't see comes alive, and you see it.
Good example, Amityville Horror.
Yeah, we talk about that, like poltergeist activity and hauntings. Like it kind of implies that's really interesting. Like it's something about how like the universe kind of floods in when there's instability.
And so, what is the reason for that?
Well, I put it together with what I learned from a friend, Teoxin Ghost Horse, who's a Lakota speaker, who says Indians don't get abducted, which I like.
Yeah, he's like, sure, good.
Wait, did you say his last name was Ghost Horse?
Yes.
Wow, that's a good last name.
That is a great name.
Yeah.
But he
different than Parks.
His first name is Longface. Longface Ghost Horse.
Well, he talks about the Lakota. They see the world as metaphors within metaphors. They don't really see linear, sort of structured, mindset the way through that lens the way we do. And I think through, first Christianity and then materialist science, I think, the Western mind has blinders that is completely natural to people who live naturally,
Yeah.
And so I think people who live naturally have a completely different relationship with this because they have a different relationship with their environment. So I really think it's just white man, and first world people, perhaps in general.
Because they don't treat it as it's almost like
repressing. It's like a repression.
Yeah, because they treat that like what you were saying, like sort of the greater universe as not a big deal. It's just a matter of fact. It's just a part of their life. So it's like it's not this unknown mystery. Now every time you see a phenomenon like that, it's not because they're so used to dealing with symbols. But it's a different mystery.
Like there's no fear. It's not like, oh my God, this is out to kill us. We've got to go to war against aliens. It's none of that stuff. It's like accepted. It's our forefathers are around us all the time.
So it's not so much a mystery as it's more of an interest. If they would see an alien, they're like, I'm just interested in what that is.
Yeah, it's like, well, there's our star brothers and sisters. It's like,
I hope he has corn on that space disc.
I hope he doesn't, so we can sell him some.
But I think
we've got to make some money.
I think somewhere along the way, we got so wrapped up in killing off witches and occult stuff and all that. It's
illegal to practice it. I mean,
I think we lost something in there. I mean, I think part of that is, great, let's get rid of the superstitious stuff, but I think we lost something real there as well. And I think that real thing comes knocking on the door when your sense of normalcy gets jostled.
Yeah, they got rid of the witches, but they kept the bloodletting, so they were a little bit off.
It's still happening. Yeah, that's a great way to thought. I've been watching. It just makes me think of Ancient Aliens because I've been watching that fucking show so much recently. And there was in the tribe in South America that talks about they grant the fact that their pyramids were helped as sort of geological maps for alien life form, in which that we come from them and that we were made by an alien race in order to either work for them or as a sort of they were putting themselves here, and there was all those various theories of they're us but from the future.
She's a he.
Whoa! No. I still love her.
You are insensitive. So what was the big culminating event? When did you see
the big culminating moment? Was October 2001. My moment of anti-structure.
It's nearly the anniversary.
Yes. I had. Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
it's weird. I had a girlfriend at the time, which.
That's also weird.
Comedians.
Shut up!
And we were this was in Astoria. We were lying on a floor, on a mattress on the floor. I didn't have a bed quite yet.
Well, I see why she loved you. He's very romantic. He doesn't have electricity. It's all candlelight. And
yes,
floors
we call
on the
it
bed.
rustic.
So this happened here in the city?
Yes. And in the middle of the night, a bright light comes flooding in the window, and I sort of climb over her to pull the shades back and see what the hell this is. And I mean, there's this sort of diffuse, bright white light, and it's not waking her up. I can't see what the source is, but
it's not a Polish deli that just opened up across the street.
No, I'm actually down. You have to walk down some stairs, so I'm in this little pseudo alleyway.
Okay,
and that's
so really no light, no unnatural light.
No. So it's not waking her up. I don't care. I decide I'll roll back over and go to sleep. I roll over, and there are 3 little gray guys in tunics.
Yeah,
standing there, just hovering. And now, I just immediately go into animalistic fear. It's as if let's be a writer here for a second. It is as if you have a soul, and they could eat it if they want to.
Yeah,
and it's that. That's the only way I can describe the terror, because it's not I've been in a fire, I've been in life and death situations, and this is beyond that. This is how do you describe
it's just seeing something you're not expecting to see at all.
Well, you know what? I think it's more than that, because the more I think about this experience, what happened immediately there is they're standing there and sort of smiling or whatever, but with this childlike naivete. No, closed mouth. I don't know. But there's nothing hostile going on. So the fear reaction isn't, there's a discrepancy here.
Fear of the unknown. It's like a near jerk.
Yeah, I think there's something about the clash of whatever happens here where fear is a necessary barrier or something almost. Because I feel like it's in a way, it's anti-structural. It's the end of your sense of self. Your sense of normalcy is immediately taken away.
Yeah, you're not meeting them like West Side Story, the sharks, and no one has a chain beating a club upon their
but it's also kind of the same reaction to how I imagine when black people first saw white people when white people showed up, and it's just like, oh no. Ah! A couple of our media were just like, don't let them off the boat. Destroy the boat.
So you're
Maybe.
I don't understand it. So you're in this alley facing these three gray men.
In the alley. Yes, I'm in an alley. I'm in my bedroom.
Good.
Facing these three beings or whatever. And the next thing I know, and there's no transition, it's just the next thing I know, I'm in my underwear as I went to bed I'm standing in this nondescript room that's completely black, but that same diffuse light is in this room. It's sort of shining down from somewhere above. And in front of me is a row of tables with humans on them, naked, seemingly passed out. And the one closest to me is a blonde woman, maybe in her, like early 50s.
So they're lying on these tables.
Yeah, they're lying on these tables unconscious, I assume. And the three beings are standing around the woman closest to me, like, just presenting like this. I'm doing a hand gesture to radio people.
You like?
Yeah.
Take it.
Manja.
I feel like I'm getting sold a shawarma over here.
I mean, it's like, the gesture is like, yep, this is what we do for a living, like show and tell. And now I must be sedated because I'm not, like, scared at all, but I'm just sort of out of it, and I'm standing there looking at this, and I'm thinking to myself, why am I seeing this? And that female voice that I talked about earlier answers, because you've always wanted to remember what an abduction was like. And then I remember having a really long conversation with this woman, but when I got up the next day, and this is after I've been writing for UFO Magazine, I've written a book, I've done all this shit, I didn't want it to be real, because when it happens, it doesn't matter that it is real. It's like you are like, no, this didn't happen. So I decided to let it go, and I just let it go for another couple of years.
Wow, that's it. I think that's a very interesting reaction, especially to somebody who's in the genre, because isn't that that's the golden calf? You were just given the gift. You can write a huge book about this, or whatever it is. Like you made contact.
I think it's a part of the brain, though. I think the brain just doesn't want you to have the information for some reason. Like, it doesn't want you to have sort of conscious touching of it.
Well, I think it's also you probably just don't want to have to deal with it in your real life. Once you come, I mean, it's like it's being gay to some degree. You were in the closet about your abduction, and once you I'm the guy who was abducted, then you have two punks who run a last podcast on the left.
The world to know.
Right.
No, because I think it's one thing to theorize about something, but then when you actually experience it and it's horrifying, it's like, oh, Jesus, am I wrong? Am I lying to myself?
Right.
Did you do any sort of regressive therapy? Like, did you do any hypnotherapy or anything to recall it?
I had done that in college.
Yeah.
And this is about the point where George Norrie kicks me off his show.
Oh yeah. So this is what happened. So Coast to Coast AM, which is another paranormal sort of it's a wackadoo show. It's kind
of the granddaddy of them, though.
Of all of them, yeah. It's the old grandfather that talks about who works for the post office. Who talks about how the Indian people are trying to take money out of his pockets. But George Norrie is kind of a ridiculous human being who is the DJ for Coast to Coast AM. And you got kicked off the show?
Yes. And watch me tie all this up together in a nice little bow.
Please do.
So I was on promoting the Culture of Contact. We did two festivals. The first one was successful. The second one was such a bomb that I'm surprised I didn't take my life.
Just people like tearing apart the festival.
Yeah, but they wanted me to set up a night for them of me. So I was supposed to go on Coast to Coast and then stay on the line and
answer calls. Yeah.
Well, no. Well, talk to I gave them Bud Hopkins and Steve Bassett and maybe Bill Burns. I don't remember. Anyway, so I set up this night for them, and, before you go on Coast to Coast, first of all, they make you hand in questions. It's like, so you do their job for them.
Wow,
for
very
George.
interesting. It's just like, oh, thank you so much. We're so glad you could tell us what you're going to say.
How'd you become the coolest man in the world? Well, let me tell you.
But here's where it really sucks. They say, if you don't have a landline, go rent a hotel room because you're going to sell 1 million copies of your book, and it's going to be in your best interest. Could you imagine if I rented a hotel room in New York if I didn't have a landline and then got kicked off the show? Like,
oh no, it's ludicrous,
ridiculous. Yeah. So I do the show, and he had just gotten the ratings back from some sci-fi thing that he thought was going to be his big ticket to TV, and the ratings were awful. And so apparently, from what I hear, he was in a funk, and so we weren't connecting. But when I told that Vermont story, the UFO, his answer to that was, "Could it be angels?"
It's like, what the what are you talking about, George?
Yeah, well, I thought he was joking.
I'm gonna slap you, George.
Yeah, I hadn't heard the show since Art Bell, so I thought he was joking. I didn't realize he had this whole Catholic trip. So I started laughing. I was like, no, come on. Why would it be angels? I was like, that was my attitude.
He's like, angels are responsible for quite a bit of phenomena.
Pretty much. And then he asked me about hypnosis at some point during this. I was on for maybe 20 minutes, a half hour. And I told him, in college, I went to a regular, school guidance counselor who was like, you seem normal, you have a handle on your background, nothing I can do for you. Goodbye.
Thank you.
That's actually a great therapist, though, as opposed to making stuff
Then she sent me to, so she was like, I'll send you to the head of it was Hartford, University of Hartford I went to, Hartford Mental Ward. He can take a look at you, which is like, geez, do I want to take this dare?
Yeah, what are you talking about? Yeah, just like, no, we're just putting this jacket on you. Don't worry about it. Just come a little closer. Oh, just take the pills and a little.
Yeah, there's a guy with like a laser pointer on my forehead.
We're just gonna close this door. Just go to sleep. It's gonna be fine.
This guy kept asking me about like the times that I would take showers with this girl Stacy and not actually touch her and all this sort of. So he was really interested in the sexual aspect, and so I told him about the alien stuff. Thing walks in my room and all that. And he keeps going on with sex questions. I say, well, what about the thing I actually came in here for? What about that other, the aliens? And he's like, well, that's dreams, misinterpretations, and hallucinations. Anyway, getting back to the shower. So I was like, okay, this isn't working. So then I sought out hypnotherapist. And she was too new agey for my liking.
Yeah, she's like, well, we'll spin the crystal, and if it points towards the ocean, we know it's true.
Yeah.
She's like, oh, very good, thank you.
So here's where I get kicked off coast. Basically, I remember when I got out of that, it felt as though I was under for a few minutes, and I remember like the surface level stuff I told her, which felt like me trying to please the therapist. It didn't feel real at all. But when I came out of it, it was actually hours later, and she offered me free therapy. And it never dawned on me until my first radio interview to promote my first book, when they asked me, so what did you say? Never dawned on me in all those years to actually ask her, what did I say? She never told me. She never...
What?
Yeah. So I wonder if I was given like a post-hypnotic suggestion to not remember and not ask. Like, I don't know. Her name is Barbara Vacar. Vacaar. So
give
if anyone
him the
knows
tapes.
this woman...
Don't they record them, though? Aren't they supposed to record all that shit? That's ridiculous.
I don't think she did record it. I don't know. But I never went back to her because I thought she was too new agey. Yeah. But anyway, I told...
And she stole all your memories.
Yes. I told Nori this, and his answer was, well, why'd you just tell me that story? I was like, well, because you asked. What do you mean? He's like, but you don't remember what you said, so why'd you tell it to me? Like, because that's actually what happened.
Yeah,
like, what do you?
No, you're gonna make it up. If he's really into Catholicism, you're gonna make up stories for him and be like, "Oh, that's possible."
Yeah, and they're coming back in 2012, and it's like long thing. He's like, "I knew it," and they'll be bringing Jesus with them. It'll be wonderful.
That's great. So I am still interested. So how long was it before you expressed this abduction story? How many years did you wait before you got it off your conscience and made it like a public statement about it?
I guess I wrote the book in 2003, and then I gave it to UFO Magazine to review, and they said, hey, you're a good writer. Why don't you come write for us? So
that's great.
And the abduction happened in around 2000?
It was in 2001.
2001.
That abduction, yeah.
So it was a month after 9/11 in New York?
While I was losing my virginity.
Whoa!
There's your anti-structure. There's your puberty.
See, I was wondering what the anti-structure was. I was like, all right, well, it's October 2001. There's some weird shit going on in the city.
Interesting.
Incredibly interesting.
Losing your virginity.
I love it.
Wow, I just don't. The more we were talking about this a little bit before the show, where it's just the more you dig, the more you look into it, the more you research it. It gets hairier and hairier.
Yeah.
And you don't know what the hell.
That's why. I mean, none of aliens. That doesn't make sense. Like nothing that you throw at this really makes sense.
Right.
No. Do you think is it about an agenda? Do you believe though that you met separate personalities? Like these were things outside of your own brain?
Yeah.
And do you think that they have an agenda? Like, is it like, do you think, or is it just a matter, is it all personal? Is it about a subjective experience?
I That's a tough question to answer.
I know. Yeah, I'm sorry. I know it's like years of research.
You said earlier, like at the very beginning, that you don't know if it's aliens,
right?
At this point, like, what do you believe it is then? Or I mean,
I think that whatever. I don't think the word alien sort of like. I think when we think of aliens, we anthropomorphize this thing and we go, okay, that's something like
we
put a label on people are like, we want the government to tell us what's going on, and so we can have galactic NAFTA. And, go join the Galactic Federation.
We want to get their galactic plutonium to make our we want to get their stuff.
I want to find a conehead girl. I want to find a real hot girl with a cone head.
Connie was pretty hot.
Oh, Connie was gorgeous.
Yeah. I think whatever it is, I think it either it or uses or we filter them through, however that works out, cultural constructs. And so now they look like aliens. Before they look like fairies. Before that they look like, Marian visions. And
that it's not about what they are specifically. It's just about what they kind of stand for, which is a greater universe.
Well, here comes my spiritual shtick, which is I think that whatever this is of a oneness consciousness.
Yeah.
And so I think from their point of view, it's one waking oneself up.
And then maybe it's even coming from inside your own brain, like.
Or do you think it's a collective unconscious type of thing?
No. It's hard to say. It's tough to say because do I think that they have an independent reality outside of me?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I do. Do I also think that they are intricately linked to us? Yes, I do. How does one explain that? But I also, the DMT connection. Is also there. 3:30 in the morning, your brain produces the most DMT.
Yeah. And what's DMT?
It's the hallucinatory chemical compound found in, I think, shrooms, right?
Amazing. Well, DMT in and of itself is a drug,
and it's also the hallucinogen that's released like in moments before you die.
Yeah, your pineal gland.
Yeah,
interesting.
It's the one that makes dying okay.
But how and that's kind of just sort of that could just be a sort of window into how we're all the whole thing's linked.
Yeah.
The whole thing is all connected to each other, and it's kind of nebulous right now.
It's all frequencies, man.
Yeah.
But I do want to say just one thing because 2 years after that experience, the 2001 experience, we had a subletter at our apartment in Astoria, and I was in a different bedroom. I was talking to him in the morning and getting to know him, and my left nostril started bleeding, and that triggered a flashback to what happened that night, which I'll save you the gory details.
No, do not save them.
Well, because this gets into this is where I jump the shark sort of moment.
Jump it.
Yeah, this whole show jump the shark.
Yeah. There's this other thing that is not created by this alien thing, but is related, which, I don't know, are you guys familiar with Kundalini?
No.
Okay, well, there's this mysterious energy called Kundalini that it turns out is real.
Awesome.
Which makes, once it's activated or whatever, makes the body do, if you shut up long enough to let this seemingly other will do its thing, does like Tai Chi and does yoga and does all sorts of crazy-looking things. Well, this is now active in me, and so if I let it go, it'll do that type of stuff, things I'm not really familiar with. But this fine night, it clearly wanted to move around, and it just pinched the bridge of my nose, which was a completely pedestrian thing, except that later in the night, once again, just like in the other bedroom of the same apartment, I woke up, bright light. What was it? Yeah, it was bright light that woke me up. So, the window's here.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Sorry, audio people. And the wall is...
We understand.
Yeah, the wall
You're
is to my right, and the window is to my left front. And I'm looking out the window, and I'm like, why is it bright in here? The sun isn't up. Like, what the hell? And, just glance over to my right, and where my wall should be is like this vortex or force field or something, that same bright white light that I had seen outside my window in the other bedroom. And when I looked at this, my nose started bleeding down the back of my throat. So I think whatever this energy is cauterized my nose before I went to sleep so that I wouldn't bleed out all over the place. But then when I had bloody nose in the morning, it triggered the memory of all this having happened.
That's really interesting.
And the reason I'm telling you this is because that quality of light was the same quality from the other experience from 2001. And part of the way that I was able to deny that experience is to say, well, there's no chance in hell that a bright light shined through my window and all of Queens wasn't woken up. There couldn't have been, like, a ship shining a light through my window. That's not possible.
Yeah.
And so this told me, well, that's right. So what it is this portal opens up, and, there they are.
And there they are. You just
love
pop
it.
into the thing. Wow.
That's so amazing.
That is so amazing. Thank you so much for coming on and talking with us
I just want to know, just lastly, like, how does this shape your worldview? Like, how do you vote for the president of the United States? Like, how do you do anything? How do you get
what to
lettuce?
order for food?
Yeah. I would like the General Tso's. There's a portal in my room, so get me 2. I don't know when they're coming. Like, how do you do that? Like, how do you live in both worlds at once?
That's a good question.
You moved to Hawaii.
It was a lot harder before. I mean, I think, in a way, it's difficult, but it's good that it's happening to me because I feel like I have a good handle on, like, unlike other people in this field who are completely, like, socially retarded, like, I understand the joke. I get, like, if this wasn't happening to me, like, I wouldn't believe me. Like, there's not a chance in hell I'd believe me. And so if you've got that, like, sense of humor about it, I think it gets you through.
One last question, the hardest question of the day. Thin crust or deep dish?
Oh, man, deep dish.
Yeah.
Oh,
He's right. He got it right.
That's right.
Is there anything else you want to plug before?
Yeah.
No. Well, just I brought a bunch of extra books and DVDs for your listeners if you want to do some sort of
Absolutely.
crazy content.
We have the live show at the Creek in the Cave on Saturday,
October 1st.
October 1st, immediately followed by Big Fat Scary, so we'll also tie this into that. And the books are Urgency, and I Know Why the Aliens Don't Land. The movie is No One's Watching, an alien abductee's story.
Are these available on Amazon as well?
Well, yes, they are. I'm glad you asked that. Thank you.
Excellent.
And the website is paratopia.com.
.net.
Oh!
Yes.
Well, let me just erase that.
.com will bring you to some Asian site. You don't
go to the Asian site.
Then again, stop at the .net first, and then check out the Asian site afterwards. I hear
Thank you again so much for coming on.
Yeah,
Thank you
Jeremy
so much for
Vaney,
coming in.
thank you so much, man. This has been my favorite episode yet.
Absolutely.
It's been amazing. Thank you, Jeremy.
Magustalations.
Magustalations.
Don't leave your house.
Put a meatball on it.